An international team of elite thieves from around the world comes together to steal 500 million worth of gold from a passenger plane flying 12,000 meters above the ground. At first, the mission seems impossible, but this is where the story begins. Every step is filled with danger, and every decision could change their lives forever. The story opens at a luxurious auction attended by wealthy buyers from across the world. The entire venue is covered by security cameras, leaving no blind spots. The police are confident that nothing can go wrong. However, they have no idea that an extraordinary heist is about to unfold. Among the guests is the world-famous master thief Cyrus. He arrives openly under his real identity, without showing the slightest fear. His confidence immediately catches everyone's attention. The police begin monitoring his every move. Cyrus calmly takes a seat in the middle of the auction hall and patiently waits. A short time later, he places a bid of $20 million on a valuable NFT artwork. Everyone in the room is stunned by such an enormous offer. The police become even more suspicious and tighten their surveillance. As soon as the auctioneer announces the successful sale, Cyrus quietly gives instructions to his team through an earpiece. The auction hammer comes down, officially closing the bid. Suddenly, alarms begin echoing throughout the building. Panic spreads across the hall as people rush toward the exits. CIA agent Abby has been watching Cyrus from the very beginning. The moment the chaos begins, she orders security to lock down the entire building. But by then, Cyrus has already disappeared with the NFT artist. Abby quickly realizes the truth. If Cyrus had only wanted the artwork, stealing the NFT itself would have been far easier. His real target was the artist all along. The entire auction had been nothing more than a distraction. Abby immediately calls for a pursuit team at the harbor. Meanwhile, Cyrus remains completely calm. He signals his teammate, Misson, to begin the next phase of the operation. Misson hacks into the building system and activates the emergency fire alarm. The sudden evacuation disrupts Abby's entire pursuit. At the same time, their skilled pilot, Camila, accelerates the escape boat and performs a sharp high-speed turn. Abby refuses to give up and continues chasing them. Seeing this, Misson remotely activates heavy metal barriers that completely block Abby's route. With no other choice, Abby contacts headquarters and orders a nationwide search for Cyrus. Meanwhile, the NFT artist still has no idea that he has been kidnapped. He simply believes Cyrus is an overly enthusiastic fan. Cyrus takes him aboard a luxurious yacht. There, he hands him $20 million and invites him to celebrate with a private party. The artist happily accepts, unaware that the entire world now believes he has been abducted. The following morning, Cyrus finally reveals the truth. The kidnapping was carefully staged to increase the value of the NFT collection. The artist is completely shocked. Cyrus explains that history has shown how famous thefts can dramatically increase the value of priceless artwork, just like the legendary Mona Lisa. As news of the kidnapping spreads across the media, demand for the artist's work skyrockets. Soon, the artwork is sold for an incredible $89 million. The artist is amazed by the outcome. At the same time, the CIA receives urgent intelligence. A dangerous criminal named Lars is preparing to smuggle $500 million worth of illegal gold. Even more surprising, Abby is ordered to recruit Cyrus for the mission. She strongly opposes the idea. In her eyes, trusting an international thief with a CIA operation sounds ridiculous. However, her superiors explain that the mission is too important to fail. Although Abby has never trusted Cyrus because of their complicated history, she has no alternative. She reluctantly meets him and offers a deal. If he successfully completes the mission, every member of his crew will receive full immunity for their past crimes. Cyrus likes the proposal, but adds one condition. Abby must personally join the operation. After a brief pause, she agrees. The following day, Cyrus informs his team about the offer. Most of them believe he has lost his mind. They suspect Abby could secretly be setting a trap. Cyrus reminds them that Abby already knows almost everything about their organization. Eventually, the team accepts the dangerous mission. Abby then begins explaining the operation in detail. She reveals that in just 17 days, Lars will transport 500 million worth of gold from a bank in London to Zurich. The gold will be packed inside large wooden crates, measuring around 1 to 1.5 meters in size. Each crate will weigh nearly 10 tons. The shipment will travel to the airport under extremely heavy security. From there, It will be loaded onto a Swiss Air passenger aircraft bound for Zurich. Everyone quickly realizes that stealing the gold while it's still on the ground is impossible. After hearing the full plan, Cyrus's crew believes the mission is nothing more than a suicide operation. Breaking through that level of security seems unimaginable, but Cyrus remains completely calm. He says that if stealing it on the ground is impossible, then they will steal it in the sky. His bold plan is to transfer the gold while the plane is still in midair. To make that happen, they will need a second aircraft. When the two aircraft come close enough, they will exchange radar signals. Once the exchange is complete, the plane carrying the gold will become almost impossible to detect. Hacker Missin immediately begins searching for a suitable aircraft. She finds a large, heavily modified plane designed specifically for covert operations. The aircraft can be controlled remotely and is equipped with advanced automated systems. Denton then reveals its most impressive feature. The underside of the plane is covered with a massive LED display. This technology helps disguise the aircraft from both radar and visual detection. Cyrus instantly realizes that this aircraft will become their greatest advantage. After securing the plane, the team starts planning the hijacking in detail. Their first objective is to manipulate the radar system and make their aircraft invisible. The second objective is to synchronize its signal with the passenger plane carrying the gold. According to the plan, the cargo vault must be opened at an altitude of approximately 9,100 m. The crew spends several days training under realistic conditions. Every member memorizes their role perfectly. However, one major problem appears during the rehearsals. Activating the jammer and transponder at the same time while both planes are flying at nearly 1/100 km/h proves to be extremely difficult. Even the smallest mistake could destroy the entire mission. There's only one possible solution. They need help from an insider working within the airline who can manipulate the system at the perfect moment. Abby immediately thinks of Harry. Harry is a wheelchair user who secretly works as a CIA asset inside the airline. He also has connections with members of the airline's transport crew. Cyrus offers Harry $1 million to assist with the operation. Seeing the enormous payment, Harry agrees without hesitation. From that moment on, the entire team works around the clock. No one sleeps or takes a break. Every second is dedicated to preparing for the mission because failure is not an option. Missin presents the signal jammer that must be installed aboard the passenger aircraft. However, the device looks almost identical to a bomb. Abby suggests dismantling it into several separate pieces. The team immediately approves the idea. Each member will carry one part while pretending to be an ordinary passenger. Everyone will board the plane separately to avoid attracting attention. Once on board, they will secretly assemble the jammer. Finally, the day of the operation arrives. The team boards the passenger aircraft like regular travelers. Some take seats in business class while others sit in economy. Meanwhile, the gold remains locked inside the heavily guarded cargo hold. Suddenly, an unexpected problem threatens the mission. Engineer Luke suddenly disappears. Cyrus is alarmed because Luke is carrying one of the jammer's most important components. He immediately asks Ms. to find another solution. At the same time, Camila follows the passenger aircraft in the stealth plane. The distance between the two aircraft continues to shrink. Missin scans the passenger cabin and discovers 5 armed bodyguards disguised as ordinary passengers. 2 are seated in first class while the remaining 3 are in economy. The entire crew is immediately put on alert. Once the plane reaches cruising altitude, passengers begin moving around the cabin. One by one, the team members enter the economical class restroom and secretly hide different parts of the device. Later, Abby carries the partially assembled jammer inside a backpack and walks toward the first-class restroom. Her nervous behavior catches the attention of one of the bodyguards. The situation quickly becomes dangerous. Suddenly, the aircraft hits severe turbulence. The device slips from Abby's hands and breaks apart. She panics and has no idea what to do. Cyrus quickly joins her and begins repairing the equipment. Meanwhile, Camila perfectly aligns the stealth plane with the passenger aircraft. Even then, the jammer is still not fully assembled. Just then, a bodyguard knocks loudly on the restroom door. Thinking quickly, Abby pretends the restroom is occupied. Feeling awkward, the bodyguard walks away. Cyrus finishes repairing the device. Moments later, the jammer powers on successfully. At the exact same moment, Camila positions both aircraft for the signal exchange. The synchronization is successful. Within seconds, both aircraft disappear from radar. The mission has now entered its most dangerous stage. Meanwhile, Harry begins carrying out his role from the air traffic control center. He sends a captain a fake weather report. The message claims that severe weather has made landing at the original destination impossible. He instructs the captain to divert the flight to another airport surrounded by snow-covered mountains. After completing his task, Harry secretly sends a confirmation signal to Camila. Camila immediately begins the next phase of the operation. She deploys the radar jamming drone and gradually increases the distance between the two aircraft. Everything is now moving according to plan. The captain announces an emergency landing to all the passengers. Panic quickly spreads throughout the cabin. At the same time, the disguised bodyguards become more alert and begin watching everyone carefully. Inside the cargo hold, Magnus begins working on the security system. He carefully operates the control panel. For several tense moments, nothing happens. Everyone waits anxiously. The system appears to be frozen. If it fails, the entire mission will be ruined. Then, without warning, the vault unlocks. Magnus breathes a sigh of relief and immediately begins cracking the security code. The path to the gold is finally open, but just then, one of the bodyguards notices that something is wrong and immediately becomes alert. Without wasting a second, a fierce fight erupts inside the cabin. Passengers begin screaming as panic spreads throughout the plane. Screaming. At the same time, the captain hears the commotion coming from the cabin. Realizing that something is seriously wrong, he decides to make an emergency landing at the nearest airport. The aircraft quickly begins its descent. As soon as the plane lands at an airport in the Alps, the bodyguards capture Cyrus at gunpoint and force him into the cargo hold. They order him to inspect the gold and immediately contact Lars to report everything. Lars remains calm as he listens to the situation. The bodyguard informs him that the plane has landed in the Alps, but the robbers also have a backup aircraft. Without showing any concern, Lars orders his men to seize both the gold and the thieves. The bodyguards then capture Cyrus, Abby, Camila, and the rest of the team. Camila barely gets a chance to react before she is taken prisoner as well. The situation is now completely turned against them. Preparations begin to transfer the gold onto the backup plane. With a gun pointed at her head, Camila is forced to fly the aircraft. The tension reaches a new level. Meanwhile, senior officers at CIA headquarters realize that Abby and her team are in serious danger. A tracking operation is launched immediately and surveillance satellites are activated. Soon, the backup aircraft takes off. At that exact moment, Camila secretly sends a signal. Cyrus understands her message instantly and quietly tells Abby to fasten her seatbelt. Seconds later, the aircraft shakes violently. The bodyguards, who are not wearing seatbelts, are thrown across the cabin. Chaos breaks out once again. The lead bodyguard manages to stand up and demands to know why the plane is shaking. Camila calmly replies that the heavy weight of the gold is causing turbulence. Although the bodyguard is suspicious, he has no choice but to accept the explanation. In reality, Camila has secretly disabled the aircraft's stealth system, making it visible on the CIA's radar. Within moments, the CIA detects the aircraft's location. They immediately scramble two F-35 fighter jets to intercept it. However, another officer reminds the senior officials that they still have no concrete evidence against Lars. After a brief discussion, they contact NATO. Using a possible terrorist threat as justification, they request permission to shoot the aircraft down. At this point, AB's safety is no longer their priority. The bodyguards believe the threat is only a bluff. Meanwhile, Camila continues flying the plane. Outside, the fighter jets lock their missiles onto the target and begin the final 60-second countdown. Inside the aircraft, Cyrus prepares one final gamble. He activates the remote control. Instantly, hidden steel pipes shoot out and slam into the bodyguards, knocking them to the floor. The balance of power shifts once again. Cyrus and his team regain control of the aircraft. Cyrus overpowers the lead bodyguard, while Abby quickly takes control of the situation. She uses the LED display beneath the aircraft to spell out the word civilian, hoping the fighter pilots will see it. It is their final attempt to save themselves. Meanwhile, Camila suddenly flips the aircraft upside down. Seeing this unexpected maneuver, the NATO pilots immediately abort the attack, but the aircraft rapidly loses altitude, making the situation even more dangerous. Taking advantage of the moment, Abby uses the remote to open the cargo door. The bodyguard fighting Cyrus loses his balance and is pulled out of the aircraft. Within seconds, he disappears into the open sky. Cyrus and Abby rush toward the cockpit, where Camila is still struggling against another bodyguard. Working together, they finally regain full control of the plane. Unfortunately, the aircraft has already suffered severe damage. Cyrus takes the pilot's seat and desperately tries to pull the nose upward. Suddenly, a section of the fuselage breaks apart and crashes into the tail. The aircraft becomes almost impossible to control. An emergency landing is now their only hope. Looking below, Cyrus spots a highway and decides to attempt a landing there. It is a desperate move to save everyone's lives. The aircraft slams onto the road and skids across the surface at high speed. Completely out of control, it races straight toward Lars's luxurious villa. Inside the villa, Lars and the woman waiting to receive the gold are stunned by the approaching aircraft. Neither of them can believe what they are seeing. The trees lining the road slow the aircraft just enough. After breaking apart, it finally comes to a stop right in front of the villa. A sudden silence follows the violent crash. Cyrus, Abby, and Camila climb out of the wreckage. The entire area is in complete chaos. Around 10 tons of gold now lies scattered across the ground. The woman responsible for inspecting the gold suddenly receives a message warning that an undercover agent is involved in the operation. She immediately decides to cancel the deal. She realizes something is terribly wrong. She also concludes that one of the 3 survivors must be working with law enforcement. Just as she prepares to walk away, Lars loses his patience. Without hesitation, he fires 2 shots. The woman collapses to the ground and dies instantly. Lars shows no emotion. What he doesn't realize is that the entire incident has been recorded by Ms. Sand using the passenger plane's hidden cameras. Filled with anger, Lars demands to know which one of them is the undercover officer. Without fear, Cyrus steps forward. The story reaches its final confrontation. Lars raises his gun and is about to shoot Cyrus. But before he can pull the trigger, police officers suddenly arrive and surround the entire area. Terrified, Lars immediately accuses Cyrus and his team of trespassing and tries to defend himself. Within moments, the entire situation turns against him. Cyrus tells the officers the full story about the gold smuggling operation and the murder. At the same time, footage recorded during the mission is projected onto the aircraft's fuselage, revealing clear evidence of Lars committing the crime. Now Lars has nowhere left to run. Realizing there is no escape, he lowers his head and confesses. His criminal empire comes to an end. A short while later, the CIA team also arrives at the scene. Abby is deeply shaken by everything that has happened. Cyrus realizes it is time to leave. Camila prepares a boat for their escape. Before Cyrus departs, Abby confronts her superior and asks if he was the one who authorized NATO to shoot down the aircraft. She already knows the answer. Filled with anger, Abby punches him. She then throws down her CIA badge and resigns on the spot. For the first time, a sense of peace appears on her face. Without looking back, Abby boards Cyrus's boat. From this moment on, her life takes a completely different direction. The story now moves toward its biggest and most surprising twist. As the boat sails across the sea, the chaos slowly disappears behind them. Cyrus notices Abby's silence and begins revealing the truth. He tells her that the mission was never truly meant for the CIA. Abby is stunned. She had always believed the gold would end up in CIA custody. Cyrus smiles and admits that he never trusted the agency. He explains that the real operation actually began the day Harry was recruited in Brussels. That was the moment when Magnus secretly replaced the real gold with fake cargo. The genuine gold had already been transferred elsewhere, while the crates on the aircraft contained nothing more than painted metal designed to resemble gold. Those fake crates were loaded onto the passenger aircraft. Everything that happened on board was simply a distraction. Both Lars and the CIA focused all of their attention on that plane. Meanwhile, Magnus waited for another aircraft to arrive. At the perfect moment, the real shipment was secretly transferred in midair. It was the most dangerous part of the operation, but everything went exactly according to plan. Cyrus also reveals that Luke's sudden disappearance was never real. Abby believed Luke had lost his nerve and fled. In reality, Luke had been assigned one of the most important tasks in the mission. His responsibility was to safely lower the real gold into the ocean. The gold was sealed inside specially deiced floating containers that would never sink. While the police and the CIA were busy recovering worthless metal crates on land, the real fortune was already hidden safely at sea. The CIA ended up with nothing but scrap. Abby bursts into laughter. She cannot believe the agency was deceived so completely. She finally realizes that Cyrus and his team had planned every move from the very beginning. Cyrus explains that his team never works for any government or organization. They trust only one another. That is exactly why Abby was brought into the mission. Soon, the rest of the crew arrives. Everyone reunites with smiles and embraces after surviving the dangerous mission. Relief and happiness are visible on every face. Abby is now officially part of the team. The fear she once carried has disappeared. In its place, his excitement and a new sense of freedom. Sash hands Abby a remote control. He tells her that the final step belongs to her. Without hesitation, Abby presses the button. The surface of the ocean begins to ripple. Slowly, massive metal containers rise from beneath the water. Within moments, 10 tons of real gold emerges from the sea. Abby's eyes widen in disbelief. She takes a deep breath as a huge weight lifts from her shoulders. Cyrus looks at her and smiles. The entire team stands together, staring at the enormous treasure before them. 10 tons of gold worth $500 million now belongs to them. This is the treasure that sparked such an extraordinary battle. Abby remains silent for a moment. She thinks about her old life where every decision was controlled by orders and rules. Now she knows she made the right choice. Cyrus admits that he intentionally kept the truth about the gold hidden from Abby. If she had known the full plan in advance, the CIA could have forced the truth out of her. Abby understands his reason and holds no resentment. The team warmly welcomes her as one of their own. Everyone praises Cyrus for leading the mission flawlessly. Cyrus smiles and tells them that this victory is only the beginning. Even greater adventures are waiting ahead. With that, today's story comes to an